Hey Kipsters, welcome back to Read Aloud. Yesterday, we practiced telling the difference between a fiction and an informational book. Say fiction means fake. Informational is real. And yesterday, the book we read was called The Legend of the Bluebonnet. And in this book, we learned about a little girl named She Who Is Alone and her tribe, the Comanche people. Now, the Comanche people are Native Americans or indigenous people, and they were the first people to live in our continent. Our continent is called North America. It's called, you got it. Now, in North America, this tribe had a problem. And today, we are going to read The Legend of the Bluebonnet one more time. And today when we read, you're going to think about what happened in the story so that you can retell it. Great readers can retell stories after they've read them. A great retell includes the characters in the story, the setting or where the story takes place, the problem, how the characters try to solve that problem, and then the solution. So I know that you are all such great readers and you're so good at listening to what happens in the story and thinking about how you can retell it in your own words. And that's what we're going to practice doing today. Before we read the story, we already know a couple things that we can retell. We already know who are the characters in the story. Think about that very special main character in the story, who the story was all about. Think, who is the main character? Yeah, the little girl. And she had a name that sounded a little different from ours. Her name was She Who Is Alone. And this is her with her doll. So I'm going to put her right here because she is a character in the story. Can you think of any other characters? Any other people or animals that we learned about in the story? Can you think? You got it. The shaman and the other people in her tribe. We know the characters are She Who Is Alone, the shaman, and the Comanche people. Do you know the setting of the story? Do you know where that story takes place? You're right. It's in North America. And I can get even more specific and tell you that the story takes place in Texas. This is the shape of Texas, a state in North America. So we know who are the characters. We know the setting where the story takes place. Now, as we read, I want you to think about the problem, how the characters try to solve the problem, and the solution. Let's get reading, Kipsters. The Legend of the Bluebonnet. An old tale of Texas retold and illustrated by Tommy D. Pawala. Great spirits, the land is dying. Your people are dying too, the long line of dancers sang. Tell us what we have done to anger you. End this drought. Save your people. Tell us what we must do so you will send the rain that will bring back life. For 3 days, the dancers danced to the sound of the drums, and for 3 days, the people called Comanche watched and waited. And even though the hard winter was over, no healing rains came. Kipsters, I think I just heard the problem. What is the problem in the story? Yeah, you got it. The problem is that there are no rains and there is no food. Let's think about those words on the next page so we can get a little more specific. Drought and famine are hardest on the very young and the very old. Oh, what's the problem? Yeah, the drought and the famine. That means there is no water or rain and there is no food. So I'm going to put a picture up of this very dry land and a tree that has no leaves. That is the problem in the story. Let's keep reading to find out how the characters try to solve the problem and what is the solution. Among the few children left was a small girl named She Who Is Alone. She sat by herself watching the dancers. In her lap was a doll made from buckskin, a warrior doll. The eyes, nose, and mouth were painted on with the juice of berries. It wore beaded leggings and a belt of polished bone. On its head were brilliant blue feathers from the bird who cries, J, J, J. She loved her doll very much. Soon, she who is alone said to her doll, the shaman will go off alone to the top of the hill to listen for the words of the great spirits. Then we will know what to do, so that once more the rains will come, and the earth will be green and alive. The buffalo will be plentiful, and the people will be rich again. As she talked, she thought of the mother who made the doll, of the father who brought the blue feathers. She thought of the grandfather and the grandmother she had never known. They were all like shadows. It seemed long ago that they had died from the famine. The people had named her and cared for her. The warrior doll was the only thing she had left from those distant days. What happened to She Who Is Alone's family? What happened to them? Yeah, they passed away because of the drought and the famine. They had no more food left. The sun is setting, a runner called. As he ran through the camp, the shaman is returning. The people gathered in a circle, and the shaman spoke. I have heard the words from the great spirits, he said. The people have become selfish. For years they have taken from the earth without giving anything back. The great spirits say the people must sacrifice. Remember, sacrifice is to give something up that might be really special to you or that you love for the good of something else. So the great spirits want these people to give up something so that they can get the rain and the food back. The ashes of this offering shall then be scattered to the 4 points of the earth, the home of the winds. When this sacrifice is made, drought and famine will cease, or it will be over, and life will be restored to the earth and to the people. The people sang a song of thanks to the great spirits for telling them what they must do. I'm sure it is not my new bow that the great spirits want, a warrior said. Yeah, or my special blanket, a woman added, as everyone went to their teepees to talk and think over what the great spirits had asked. So, what are the characters supposed to do to solve the problem? What did the shaman tell them? Exactly. The shaman told them they had to sacrifice something so that they could get the rain and the food back. So I'm going to show a picture of the warrior and the woman who said, no, they don't want my bow. They don't want my blanket. Because they were trying to solve the problem, but it wasn't working. Now we need to really think about what is the solution to this problem? How is this problem going to be solved by the characters in the story? But really quickly, before we move on, do the people want to sacrifice their bow and blanket? Tell me one more time. No, they don't. I wonder how we can describe how these people are acting. How are they acting? What do you think that's called when you don't want to share or give up something? Yep, that's called being selfish. Say selfish. They want to keep their special things. They don't want to sacrifice them. Everyone, that is, except She Who Is Alone. She held her doll tightly to her heart. You, she said, looking at the doll, you are my most valued possession. It is you the great spirits want. And she knew what she must do. As the council fires died out and the teepee flags began to close, the small girl returned to the teepee where she slept to wait. Has she solved the problem yet? Okay, let's keep reading. The night outside was still, except for the distant sound of the night bird with the red wings. Soon everyone in the teepee was asleep, except She Who Was Alone. Under the ashes of the teepee fire, one stick still glowed. She took it and quietly crept out into the night. She ran to the place on the hill where the great spirits had spoken to the shaman. Stars filled the sky, but there was no moon. "Oh, great spirits," she who is alone said, "here is my warrior doll. It is the only thing I have from my family who died in this famine. It is my most valued possession. Please accept it." Then, gathering twigs, she started a fire with the glowing fire stick. The small girl watched as the twigs began to catch and burn. She thought of her grandmother and grandfather, her mother and father, and all the people, their suffering, their hunger. And before she could change her mind, she thrust the doll into the fire. Is she who is alone acting selfish? Oh no, she is not. She is giving up her most valued, prized possession, the thing she loves more than anything, because she wants to help her people. She watched until the flames died down and the ashes had grown cold. Then, scooping up a handful, she who was alone scattered the ashes to the home of the winds, the north and the east, the south and the west. And there she fell asleep until the first light of morning sun woke her. She looked out over the hill, and stretching out from all sides where the ashes had fallen, the ground was covered with flowers, beautiful flowers, as blue as the feathers in the hair of the doll, as blue as the feathers of the bird who cries, "Jay, Jay, Jay." When the people came out of their teepees, they could scarcely believe their eyes. They gathered on the hill with she who is alone to look at the miraculous sight. There was no doubt about it. The flowers were a sign of forgiveness from the great spirits. And as the people sang and danced their thanks to the great spirits, a warm rain began to fall, and the land began to live again. From that day on, the little girl who was known by another name, one who dearly loved her people. Kipsters, why did the flowers and the rain come back? Why did they come back? You got it, Kipsters, because she who is alone sacrificed her doll and gave up the most important thing she had. So because she was not being selfish and taking from the land, they gave it back to the people. And every spring, the great spirits remember the sacrifice of a little girl and fill the hills and valleys of the land, now called Texas, with the beautiful blue flowers, even to this very day. Okay, now you've read the story twice. You know all about it. We know the characters are she who is alone, the shaman, and the Comanche people. We know the setting is in Texas, which is a place in North America. And we know that the problem was... Wait, what was it again? What was that problem in the story? Oh, yeah. There was a drought and the famine. There was no food and no rain for the people. So, the shaman told all of the people, what they had to do to solve this problem. Did the warrior and the woman want to give up or sacrifice something special? No way. You can put your thumbs down. They did not want to sacrifice and solve the problem. So this is how they tried to solve the problem. Think about the solution, or what really fixed the problem. What did she who is alone have to do to solve the problem? You got it. She had to put her doll in the fire and sacrifice it or give it up. What happened after she who is alone sacrificed her doll? What happened after? I want to hear it. Yes, the blue flowers came back, and the rain came back to the village and to the people. Whoa. You just helped me retell this story using the characters, the setting, the problem, how those characters tried to solve the problem, and finally the solution. Now, I want you to either get a piece of paper and a pencil or to ask someone at home to record you, because I want you to retell the story to somebody at home. And if you want some bonus points, you can send that video to your teacher so they can hear all about what happens in the story. Because you know what? I don't know if your teachers have read this story yet, and they need to know what happened. If you have a paper and pencil, you can draw and write a sentence about something that happened in the story. So if you want, you could pause the video right here so that you can see the story chart. And then you can draw your picture about what happened. Kipsters, you did such an awesome job in Read Aloud today, retelling all the important parts of a story. Kiss your brains, hold your glitter, and make it rain. See you later.